Alright everyone, I figured the first video of the day should be about this TikTok bullshit that's going on, because this is actually an interesting topic because I'm split right down the middle in my opinion of what should actually be done. Now, for those of you not aware, TikTok is essentially a Chinese state spying app that a bunch of 12-year-olds like to make dance videos on and end up giving basically all of their data to the Chinese government. Now, the one side of me is like, China is an evil doer in the world. The Chinese government is evil. They're communists. Anyone using this app at this point is nuts. You have to be nuts to continue using it when you know straight up from tech experts, independent tech experts, the U.S. State Department, U.S. Intel, everyone aligning, like even like left-wing Intel people who probably, because Orange Man bad, they tend to support China. Even they're very nervous about TikTok. If you still have this on your phone, you're insane. I'm encouraging you all to delete it. If you're a parent and your kid is using TikTok, I would delete it. Yeah, they might complain. Okay, get them on a safe site like YouTube. Put them on BitChute. Trust me, the weird shit they'll be exposed to there is way more tame than all of the dubious stuff, let's put it, on TikTok. Apparently they also have like messaging and stuff, and there's like perverts on the platform, which doesn't surprise me. And it's funny because TikTok actually, in some political senses, has been less censored than US firms. Like, you can get banned for saying, you know, unkind or supposedly bigoted or hateful things on Twitter, YouTube, and so forth. TikTok doesn't really care. But then if you criticize the Chinese government, you get kicked off. So it's like, you know, fuck it. I'll tell you one thing. The U.S. government now, though, is claiming that it's looking into possibly banning TikTok in the United States, banning its use. I'm not sure, number one, how you would actually go about that. Number two, I'm not sure what legal framework you would imply would allow them to do that to what is technically kind of sort of a private firm. Keep in mind, though, there is one caveat when you're talking about this. The libertarian in me doesn't want the U.S. government to be able to unilaterally shut down a foreign service any more than a domestic one. But in China, technically speaking, there are no private firms. Technically speaking, a so-called private firm in China is just a firm that at a moment's notice can be nationalized. If any industry, without any real legislative pushback at all, can be immediately nationalized for any reason by the Chicoms, one would think that necessitates that it's not technically a private business at all. You got to understand the Chinese mixed model economy. There is a hyper-capitalistic aspect, technically speaking, on its face in the economy, which is why their economy has done so well. They don't really have workers' rights. There's no real environmental protections. They don't really care about these things. But you can only take advantage of that if you are a Chinese Communist Party insider and you have the charisma, so to speak, to convince them that you should be able to get one of their government loans or something. They'll throw free money at you. They'll let you as a private investor take state funds, and as long as they think that you'll competently bring a return, they'll give you all you want and you don't have to follow any other rules. But you can never criticize the Chinese state. You can never criticize anything the party says, and you have to be willing to deal with the fact that if you fuck up, they can come in and take everything back away. They can also basically destroy your life because of their social credit score system. So TikTok, technically speaking, on its face is just a social media group and it's a private company. Behind the scenes, though, it's really a spying app that was developed by the Chinese government and exists at their behest. If all US users were to delete the app, it would collapse anyway. India has been doing a lot of this stuff. The Indian state has been going after TikTok, and I think a bunch of people in India attacked it on the App Store and got it voted down to like 1 star or something at one point. So if you're using this, delete it. The fact that it is on your phone, even if you're not using it, collects a bunch of data, like a draconian amount, like post-Zuckerberg levels. I'll tell you one thing, though, and this is something that people need to hear. The reason why there's pushback against the U.S. government doing this is because U.S. consumers have already gotten used to the idea of tech firms spying on them and censoring them already. The U.S. has made its own bed and is now laying in it with TikTok. Facebook spies on you too. The difference is that the U.S. government doesn't want to ban Facebook because Zuckerberg pays U.S. taxes, supposedly. He pays U.S. politicians because he's a U.S.-based entity with Facebook Insta and so forth, so he gives huge amounts of money to Congress, huge amounts of money to governors, huge amounts of money to various groups in California, and so he can skate by. And also, the other thing is, even though he's collecting some of the same data on you, and so is Twitter, so is Google, so is Apple, all of these other companies, Windows does it, Microsoft, or whatever platform you're using, all these groups collect your data. The one unifying feature is they also give it to the US government. So when Zuckerberg takes the same info and sells it to China, when he makes money selling it to Chinese firms that, again, are technically not private entities at all because they are all technically quasi-nationalized by the Chinese government directly. The Chinese government owns 100% of all commercial endeavors in China. It just takes a hands-off approach to a large portion of that in order to have an economy. Because it knows that private investors with their latitude, as long as they're able to manipulate currency and stuff like that, they'll outperform Western firms that are more heavily regulated. This is why everyone's been investing in China. It's also why the Chinese investors are getting nervous and investing in the United States because it has more long-term technical stability. Chinese economy right now, the bubble is about to pop, people. The Chinese economy is on the skids already. Some of their banks have already failed to pay off their investors already as of this quarter. They're already collapsing due to a gluten trade due to coronavirus. Keep this in mind, though. U.S. firms have been doing kind of the same thing. We've even got kind of a social credit score system. So people are more reluctant to be afraid of the idea of the Chinese state spying on them if they know they're already being spied on by the U.S. state and by a whole bunch of U.S. corporations. They don't even have to give the app fucking permission. They can jailbreak the phone and they can control things a little bit more. My split feeling, therefore, is you shouldn't use TikTok. Seriously, if you're watching this video, you should not be using this app. Your kids should not be using this app. Your friends shouldn't be using the app. Spread the word to get rid of it. You can make your dance videos on YouTube, but why don't you just make your 30-second video there? It's to a larger audience anyway. Put these kids on a site that's actually like well managed, preferably in a supposedly free country. But at the same time, I'm uncomfortable with the US government unilaterally acting in such a manner. Again, with the caveat that technically it's not a private firm at all. It's not technically for social media. It's mainly a spying platform. That is true. I will concede that. That's number one. And number two, I can't blame people who are pushing back against this, and not just like the tweens that use the platform, some libertarians and certain others, because people have already been desensitized to government spying. And a lot of people, when you have an orange man bad, well, China therefore good sort of ethos among the left anyway, which tends to encompass the younger generations, these people think that China's great. These people have been told by the legacy media that China's beyond reproach. They don't even know anything about its human rights abuses. They never see anything about it on TV. They never see anything about it on the internet. Half of these groups, half the legacy media partners with China. They want to be able to operate there and have reporters on the ground. They have to play by the rules too. They're not allowed to be too critical of China. China literally kicked out a bunch of reporters from the legacy media, the same partnered firms like WAPO, by the way, literally kicked them out of the country in order to protect itself from criticism of its coronavirus handling, because it was lying to the world and still is about case totals and death totals. They're way ahead of the United States, guaranteed, but you're never going to hear about it because there's no actual free media there. The Chinese media is also state-run. And if U.S. firms want to go there and be able to party, they have to play by the Chinese rules. The Chinese passing a security law that technically, by extension, they're attempting to insinuate, like their criticism of the Chinese state a la the handling of Hong Kong. They're trying to make it applicable to everyone in the world. And people don't even understand. China is imperialistic. It's funny when people like in Antifa, the U.S. left, oh, the U.S. government's so imperialistic. No, China is. They've been trying to colonize East Africa. They're constantly bullying their neighbors in Asia. They're trying to use money to link up trade routes to control Pakistan at the moment. They're constantly at odds with India over a few square miles of rugged mountain, simply because it has a potential strategic advantage. Constant border skirmishes. They screwed the Russians years ago. You remember with that gas deal? Where all of a sudden, once the pipeline had basically already been built and Putin had nowhere else to send the oil, the Chinese said, well, we're not going to pay you as much for that oil, by the way. And Putin left Beijing early. I remember it clearly. That was about 5 years ago. It was through the BRICS agreement there. Russia said, hey, we're going to pump so much oil in that you won't need as much coal. You won't need as much foreign energy sources. You'll be able to buy Russian oil at a discount. China, at the last moment, decided to change the terms and say, no, we're not going to sign the deal at all unless you, take 5-10% more off the cost, necessitating that Putin give them oil at a loss for the next decade. They're still technically operating at a loss because of the cost of building the fucking mines. Why do you think that Putin left Beijing early? Supposedly his closest ally. He went home shamefaced. They screwed Putin. Now the Chinese government has been screwing literally the entire world now for decades, since the 1980s when they decided, hey, maybe pure communism doesn't work. We're going to make a state capitalist system that is simply, completely under the thumb of the government. Just don't raise problems. You got money? You got skills? We'll let you do whatever you want. You can rape your workers. You can toss them off a fucking roof if you want to. Environmental concerns? Just fucking pollute everything. And you can manipulate your books, and you can screw Western firms. We'll protect you. Hell, you can do a lot of hacking. All of these wonderful black market things you can make money off of. Just don't criticize our government because we're being so nice to you as an investor. Central planning with that facade of capitalism, which is hilarious. They realized that capitalism worked better, so they decided they just wanted a controlled version of it. That was all the ultimate form of authoritarianism, combining the worst aspects of corporatism and the worst excesses and decadence of communism, smashing them together and calling it a working state. And it's just all sorts of messed up. So, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't use TikTok. I am semi-uncomfortable with the idea, though, of the U.S. government having the unilateral authority to ban U.S. citizens from doing dumb things. Fundamentally, the right to do dumb things is a thing. Also, I'm not sure exactly what national security concern is really represented by the Chinese knowing what Zuckerberg already sold them in many cases in the first place. I'm not sure that's a huge threat, but TikTok is bad news. Like, I briefly thought about getting a TikTok because I'm like, well, it's sort of the hip new thing. Maybe it'd be funny to make some shorter videos, like maybe just 30-second rants about random topics while I'm walking along chuckling to myself, and could be, reasonably popular, transfer some audience. I decided not to because it's too fucking cringy. Too fucking cringy and too fucking draconian when it comes to spying. So fucking delete your TikTok. I mean, if you already have it, you've already given a lot of your data away. I don't even know if your phone's safe to use after you delete it. I'm not exactly hip to the smartphone generation on the same level. A TikTok app for desktop. Be lazy while making your dance videos. That's about all. Peace out.